مصلحا ومجددا فارنوا بنظر طاهر وجناني.
So one by one they began to call us, and they called me. And the next place they had me walk to and stand, I could hear the voice of the Khalifa now. And man, unforgettable moment. Unforgettable. I'm standing in the door, and I see Brother Naveed Khan, the brother whose name I had seen for many years on my letters. He's standing right here. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know Khairu Bari, any of this. In fact, I had to give him my ID, say my name. When I walked in the room next, after brother left and they told me to step forward, I saw my Khalifa standing there. Precious, precious, unforgettable. And so I walked over to my Khalifa. He says, Assalamu Alaikum, and I say, Wa Alaikum Salam. And he asks me, how am I? And I say to him in Urdu, I am good. And then I say to him, Kia how hai? In Urdu, how are you? And he says, do you speak Urdu? And he started to speak to me in Urdu. And then, I said, I don't know this much Urdu, Hazur. And he began to smile and laugh at me.
So we got to the door, and all of a sudden, this Molvi Zegem, who was talking tough to me, he almost, I was shocked. He turned into like a whimpering. He like, oh, Assalamu Alaikum. He knocked on the door, and he became a cringing little creature. And I was surprised. What the heck is? And the door opened up, and I saw for the first time the Khalifa of that time, Hazrat Mirza Nasir Ahmad, may Allah exalt him. And it was the most important event probably of my life, and also the most devastating event of my life at the same time. Important because I immediately realized I was in the presence of the divine. Not that he was divine, no, but that here was a man who was infused with the Spirit of God. And I was crushed because I immediately knew there is no way that I am worthy of being this man's servant. And so I started to cry, and I don't know, Hazur held me in his chest, and I mean, he just patted me like I had no control. And those of you, some of you have mentioned these things, all of you know who have had this experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I couldn't talk. So after Hazur calmed me down, and to be at the embrace of the Khalifa of the time for, I don't know, I couldn't control myself. I don't know how long he was trying to, he kept patting me, it's all right.
To add the icing on the top, this is when Ahmadiyya came, and I understood the significance of joining the fold of Ahmadiyya. I shudder to think as to what I would have been like had I just joined, the regular Sunni fold. When I began to know how I have in my Khalifa the father figure that I did not have, and he's going to be there for me all of the time, and he proves it, and I can write to him and he writes me back. I get guidance from him. He delivers sermons, some of which is specifically speaking to me, beyond a doubt. Sometimes when I listen to Hazur's sermons, it is as if he's speaking directly to me, and everybody else is just happening to overhear what he has described for me to take heed to.
So number one, the first piece is we had a Mulakat in September of 2013. We had an American delegation Mulakat, and that was when I had my relationship with Khilafat. That's the day it was born. And I remember waiting in that room at Mahmoud Hall, sitting there, and I'm sitting all the way to the left, that last seat close to Huzur's office, right where you used to go in. And I'm sitting there next to Brother Hamza, a convert. And I'm sitting there next to another brother, I think is Osama Chowdhury, Tabligh guy from Virginia. We're waiting for Huzur to come out. And Huzur comes out, and I turn and look at him. I just immediately start crying. Immediately start weeping like I had never wept before in my entire life. It was literally like somebody had went into my heart and just turned the valve and just said, let go, man. And he walks and he sits down, and I could not take my eyes off him. And we were there for an hour and a half, about 200 of us. And Huzur graciously gave all of us an opportunity to personally introduce ourselves. And the whole hour and a half, I cried like I had never, ever cried in my entire life. It was like I was just being purified, looking at Khilafat-e-Ahmadiyya. And that was the day I knew what everybody was talking about. I remember listening to people all the time talk about how no life with Caliphate is not, life without Caliphate is nothing. When the fourth Khalifa passed away, it was the most painful day of my life. I just could not relate. I could not understand it. But that day, I knew exactly what everybody was talking about. I knew it. And I said, this is it. This is the truth. And ever since then, alhamdulillah, my family and we've been able to build a relationship with our Khalifa. So humbled that he knows me by name. When I walk into his office and I visit him, he says, Assalamu Alaikum, Abdul Haisam.
The one thing I want to mention is, unfortunately, I had to experience his illness and experience his passing away. But in 1997, long before he became ill, I had seen a dream where I saw what I now know to be the election of the fifth Khalifa. And the reason I want to mention this is because I want this really for people to understand. Both Ahmadis were born into the Jamaat, both those, also those unfortunate people who left the Jamaat, both those who went to other forms of Islam or atheism or secularism or Christianity. In 1997, I saw a dream where I saw myself standing outside Mahmud Hall in where Fazl Masjid is. And I saw tens of thousands, thousands of people who had covered all the streets around Fazl Mosque, sitting down on the ground. It was like a Jalsa Salana, but it was in Fazl Mosque. There was nowhere that wasn't covered with people. I was standing under the hall called Mahmud Hall. In that dream, Major Mahmud Saab, the personal bodyguard of Hadrat Khalim, the head of security, he came to me in the dream and he said to me, Ibrahim Saab, please come with me. When I went with him, I went into a small corridor which is opposite Fazl Masjid, the corridor which leads to Fazl Masjid. And in that dream, I saw that he said to me in that dream that when you hear the door, when you hear the knock that the Khalifa has been appointed, you will hear a knock. You will go and open that door in the dream. So once the announcement was made and the knock was we could hear the knock in the dream, I went in the dream. I opened the doors of Fazl Mosque, the two green doors, and I opened them wide. And when I looked inside the mosque, what I saw was an entourage in a line of people of what looked like very distinguished people. And in the middle of these distinguished people was one young man. Young man's mean he had a very short beard and he was younger than Hazrat Khalifat himself, but he was a young looking man. But he had big ears. There's a reason behind the ears, but he had big ears in the dream. And in this dream, I saw Mirza Abdul Haq Sahib, because I recognized him. And Mirza Abdul Haq Sahib put the pagri on his head of this man, and he put the ring on his finger. And in the dream, Major Mahmud Sahib said to me, Ibrahim, you lead Huzur out. You lead Huzur out, security. You lead it out of the mosque. And then when Huzur, in the dream, when the person who was called Huzur was leaving, I went ahead of him. And then I woke up. I saw this dream in 1997. I wrote this dream down in a letter. I presented this dream to my teacher who was teaching me at a time when I was studying to be a missionary, Hafiz Fazl Rabbi Sahib. And Hafiz Fazl Rabbi Sahib told me at that time, we were outside Mahmud Hall when I told him, he said to me, keep quiet. You have seen the election of the fifth Khalifa. I became very angry with Hafiz Sahib. How could that be? Huzur was not ill and he's healthy in 1987. But the reality was, unfortunately, when Huzur did fall ill eventually over many years later, and then unfortunately he passed away. When I went to London, within a few days of, in fact, within a day, the next day when we heard that our beloved Imam, Hazrat Khalifat al-Masih had passed away. When we learned this sad news, I went to London, and I really wanted to see if this dream was going to fulfill in the way I'd seen it. I remember seeing Mirza UK and asking him to do some duty, to give me any duty, because I was Sadr Majlis Ghulam al-Ahmadi just right up to, I was Sadr Ghulam al-Ahmadi when, just before Huzur passed away. And then I was posted to Ireland as a missionary. So I wanted to serve him now. I wanted to do anything to serve him because I served him for so many years. To see Mirza, and Mirza was so kind to me. Mirza Rafik Herzog. He explained to me that you are now a missionary. You should spend your time in prayers and do these things. So I said to Mirza, please, I need to do something. I need to anything. So with that, Mirza Fakhr Sahib came into Mirza's office. And Mirza Fakhr Sahib had become, after me, Sadr Majlis Ghulam al-Ahmadiyya. So Mirza Fakhr Sahib was so kind that he told Amir Sahib that how can I refuse my Sadr, because I used to be his Sadr. So they asked me what did I want to do. So I told them I want to do Hifaz al-Khas, because I used to do that many times before. So they gave me this duty. And where I was stationed, they put me outside Mahmud Hall. Exactly what I'd seen in the dream. Everything that I'd seen in the dream, that I was standing outside Mahmud Hall and I could see the roads was full of people like a jalsa. And within minutes, well, I'm telling you, within minutes, Major Mahmud came to me and he said the exact same words to me. Ibrahim Sahib, come with me. When he said this to me, I started crying. And he obviously thought I was crying because of the emotion of the event, Khilafat al-Masih had passed away, and he did not know why I was crying. I was crying because the dream was starting to unfold. And then he took me into the same room, the same corridor, which is opposite Fazl Masjid. I had the honor of seeing in the box the pugri of Hazrat Khilafat al-Sarabi. I had the honor of seeing the watch of Hazrat Masih al-Islam. I had the honor of seeing the ring of Hazrat Masih al-Islam. And we were waiting. And we were waiting for about, maybe half an hour or so. And Major Mahmood said the exact same words. He said, Ibrahim said, when we know the door, when we hear the knock, when the mic, when they announce who has been appointed and elected Khalifa, you will go and open the door. And exactly this is what happens. If you watch the video, you'll see that I'm in the front of the door and I'm opening those doors. When I opened those doors, I saw the exact same scene. I saw the exact same people. I recognized every single one of them, with the exception that Hazur didn't have big ears. In the dream, they're symbolic. There was a reason behind them. And in the same time, when the ring was put on by the turban was put on by Mirza Abdul Haqsab, when the ring was put on by Mirza Abdul Haqsab, then when Hazur was leaving the masjid and after the bay'ah and everything, and Major Mahmood told me to lead Hazur security out, the dream was completely fulfilled.
If you have not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you can get notifications for every new video. Also make sure to like and comment on the video and follow on Twitter and Instagram.
سفينا صل على محمد